Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we're going over Richard's hot and fresh reactions from his running his first game of Daggerheart. Welcome to True Strike.
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to the show.
Hey.
Today we're talking Daggerheart.
Yeah.
First game, official, running on the real rules.
All right, guys, to preface this, Richard mentioned to me a couple weeks ago, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about running a Daggerheart one-shot. You know, we kind of pitched some stuff back and forth. Ultimately, I don't know everything he decided on, but I was kind of like, ooh, who's playing in it? What are they playing? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Spoiler, one of them's doing a playtest class and stuff, and I'm like, hype, and I'm super excited. I know nothing about what happened today. All I know is that you played for what, like 12 hours?
It was a long day.
And you thought it was going to be
We were
how
here
long?
for 12 hours. We did an 11-hour, basically total one-shot that I had planned to be an 8-hour one-shot.
Okay, so about 50% longer.
I had planned it to be an 8-hour one-shot.
This tracks with most tabletop games.
Yes. Yeah. So I wanted to run a game. Long story short, my daughter approached me and said, hey, can you run a game for some friends of mine and me? And I was all like, yeah, awesome, as long as it's Daggerheart.
Yeah.
I'll run anything you want as long as it's Daggerheart.
Yeah, this is all we do now.
Because actually, she did say, will you run me a D&D game? And I was like, yeah, sure. Daggerheart is fine. We'll do that. And she was all like, what? And I was all like, yes, I will run it as long as it's Daggerheart. Because I really, one, wanted to play a game of Daggerheart, like a nice, good one-shot. And then two, I wanted to have this experience with Daggerheart because this was dealing with, I had 4 players in this group, one of which has never played a TTRPG at all, period. 2 that were, I wouldn't say super experienced, but have played TTRPGs. And then my daughter, who is very experienced because she plays in Strahd every other week and has been playing for, years now. So that was what it was. And I was all like, okay, they don't really care about system. And when I said, yeah, as long as Daggerheart, she was all like, oh, I figured you were going to say that. What? Yeah,
really?
That's exactly her response.
Yeah.
She was all like, I figured you were going to say that.
There we go.
We don't care. You can play whatever system you want.
And
actually, she was all like,
want to play something.
So she said, actually, I'm kind of surprised that it's Daggerheart. She said, I thought you were probably going to try and get us to run through Morkborg instead of D&D.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
She knows you only play that for like Halloween one-shots, right?
That's what I told her. I was like, that's a Halloween game. We're not playing that.
That's like playing Quietus in
the middle
summer.
of the season. No, that's Halloween game.
Too hot for that.
So yes, they agreed to play Daggerheart, and I started spitballing ideas of what I was going to run. And originally, I was going to run one of 2 different campaign frames that I had sort of designed myself. So I have 2, one that I've kind of told him bits and pieces of that is its own world altogether, that is kind of just like your bog standard fantasy world with gods walking amongst men, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, see, don't steal.
And then I had another one that is based in a very sandy region of a specific world that is all dunes and people running sand skiffs that float over the dunes, and the dunes move like water due to vibrations of the tectonic plates underneath it. And I was going to do that. So I was really leaning towards the dunes one. And
That sounds super fun.
This is going to be great.
I'd be sad to not be in it.
Pirates on ships, and it's really going to be cool. And then I sat down with the book and just started skimming through, coming up with ideas of what I was going to do for the campaign. And I decided I would just rather run a campaign frame that's in the book. Because we talked about this in the past, the campaign frames are very well laid out. And there's a lot of information there. It would require a little bit less work on my part as far as world building is considered. And it's kind of just there.
Which is important because you had, what, a week and a half to come up with this?
Yes, I basically had a week and a half to come up with this game, which is plenty of time if you're doing a one-shot, right? You don't have to have a whole lot of time there, but I still needed to come with my basic story because I did not follow the campaign frames inciting incident, which
Right.
they have. So when you look at the campaign frames, they give you an idea of everything that's set up, and then they give you like, okay, well, this is a good place to start. These are some rumors to tell your people. This is what's happening in the kingdom that you're in or whatever, and this is a good inciting incident to start a game.
Is that more of a way, would you consider it, to kick off like a campaign?
I think so, yes. At
Like
least it felt
grander
like
scale?
a grander scale thing. Yes, exactly. And there is, like, if you read The Witherwild, this isn't spoilery, so if you read The Witherwild, there is a slight small story about the great owl Nicta, who is attacked by the army of Haven, the main city. They remove one of her eyes, plunging everything into a never-ending spring. The eye is supposedly somewhere underneath the main keep in Haven. And then there's all these like rumors and political intrigue about trying to get the eye back.
It's
and
very
returning the eye to
anti-Frost Maiden.
it's interesting. So that seems like it was for a larger long-term campaign.
Yeah.
I wanted something much more short-term. So I looked at The Witherwild, and I really liked what I was seeing here. I like the ideas of the serpent sickness. So the people that live in Haven are turning into stone, basically. There's one cure, which is the flower, that is like 1 in every 10,000 blooms, rare, that you can cure serpent sickness. And what I did was I made a cult and made up a whole cult called I called them the Harbingers of Shunaush. And Shunaush is the god that lies at the center of Haven that was killed. And it is the source of serpent sickness. So what I did for this one shot was I set it up to where one of the players was going to be infected with a rapid onset version of serpent sickness via this cult. And this cult's whole thing is to basically make everybody into stone, because they believe that that's the path to enlightenment, and the end is to turn everyone into stone, so that when Shunaush returns, everybody that is in stone is rebirthed and reborn under his light, and is the new reality for everyone. Yeah.
It's also like, even from an outside perspective, like listening to this and the idea of that, and I'm thinking about that, like if I were to join this religion, this cult, like, oh, I can live forever as stone.
As stone, exactly.
And then live in this peaceful form, and then when they come back, I'm reborn.
You're reborn
into the perfect world. And like there's too much actual like allegory to real religion and everything. Like you can one-to-one
Yes.
this real easy.
That's why it was so easy. I started reading The Witherwild, and I'm like, oh, this is easy. We're gonna make a cult.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a cult.
No, that's solid.
Obsessed with turning people into stone.
Real good.
And I was I was going to play around with the idea of immediately taking all these players and basically choosing one of them right off the jump, and then just starting the game off with them infected. All right. So and just telling them, oh, this is the game. It's begun. You're infected.
Right.
So these were players that were relatively new, and they were kind of struggling with coming up how they knew each other. And I told them, I was like, listen, you've got a deadline by the end of this day. And this was like yesterday. I was like, by the end of the day, if you don't tell me how you know each other, I will tell you how you know each other. And I'm going to write this portion of the story for you.
Yeah.
As a threat.
Yes.
And they couldn't come up with anything.
It's a good threat.
And
did you follow through?
I followed through. I came up with my own story. And long story short, they set me up perfectly. They teed me up absolutely flawless for me to infect the never played a TTRPG game before player with serpent sickness.
Perfect.
So I made him the charity case that they were now all as friends trying to save.
Solid as stone, brother.
So yeah, that was the basis of my campaign. So these players that work together, they are friends, basically coming together to try and stay away from the cult, who is essentially after people in the city that then infected him, and then get to somewhere out of Haven. So getting out of Haven, getting into Fanewick, which is the wilds outside. So basically the wild lands, and making it to a location to find a flower to cure their friend.
This incredibly rare
flower.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of different ideas of information brokers, who they could talk to get this. And this is why the game maybe took a little bit longer. So I thought this was going to be an 8-hour game, and I had some nice sequences of events and what we were all going to do. So the total time for this game ended up being an 11-hour one shot, where we had 8 hours of actual play. We had 2 hours of character creation and learning, and then we had a 1-hour break in between. So basically we went for 5 hours, took a 1-hour break, played for 5 more hours. And that's kind of how things went, essentially. So yeah, the characters did some really cool and interesting things to find out. They actually found out where to find the flower in a completely different way than I had teed them up for, which I love when players do things like this. They caught me completely off guard.
But did it work?
And it what they did?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Did it like make sense?
Yes, it made. Yeah, and I'll tell you how it ended up going. So we had. I'll tell you the party makeup real quick so you get some context here.
Please do.
We had Fryn, who is a clank martial artist brawler. So basically a monk playtest class. We had Shellscar, a Galapa elemental sorceress. We had Gus, the Fungrill divine wielding seraph. And then we had Bafrus, the Dracona School of War wizard, as our group.
Okay.
The rock star who ended up finding out where to get this flower ended up actually being Gus, the Fungrill, by using his mycelial, not the mycelial network, the death one. So the Fungrill have an ancestral ability that allows him to touch a body, tie an emotion to it, and view a memory from that emotion. And this guy said that he was going to do this, and he chose Euphoria, which was a great opener to be able to see a cult ritual that was happening and where it was happening, and get some really nice cues for landmarks around it in this memory. And then as the players took those and the information that they got from information brokers, were able to put all these pieces to a puzzle together to figure out which forest and which location this ritual was taking place in, and be able to find stuff. So a really cool use of an ancestral ability that I forgot Fungrills even have.
Because you're like, oh, the mycelium network, I know that.
Because I've been like, I was juggling all the stuff with this game, and it is difficult to know every character that your players are playing in and out. So you do depend on them to know their abilities.
TTRPG,
yeah, typical stuff. Being able to pull something out like that was amazing, and it wasn't the way that I had planned on them finding out information, but it lined up so perfectly that we were able to go with it.
Sometimes just how it goes, man.
Yeah. So that was kind of the long and short of it. And for the ending of the campaign, they actually did, spoiler alert, no one died.
Really?
No one died. Okay. The closest we got to it was we had multiple people at 1 hit point. So close to going down.
I was wondering about this because you use the encounter builder in the book.
Yes, which we will get to. I use
so
the encounter builder in the book.
Yeah.
I even talked to them about death moves. And I gave them the skinny. And I was all like, look, I could lock you out of all these death moves. I can tell you you're not allowed to do any of these things. I'm not going to do that. We're going to play this game au natural. If you want to do one of these death moves, feel free. Do it 45 minutes in. You're watching us play for the next 9 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
Know this.
So if they had, would you have stopped the game to make a new character, or were they sitting?
I had some backup NPCs that were drop-ins.
Okay.
So if they wanted to, they were not going to be out of the game.
Yeah.
I did have some backup drop-ins. So I had some NPCs already made. Actually, I have a list of about 4 or 5 NPCs that didn't even make it into the game because they didn't go those directions, didn't talk to those NPCs, and nobody died.
How goes?
So they didn't get to them. So I didn't restrict them on that. I told them all about death moves. So those were definitely on the table. I did inform them that this is not necessarily the last game for these characters. So I intended on, these characters being a living thing. So these characters at the end, we have all the data. I have all their stuff. They leveled up to level 2. And they are ready to continue this adventure. They have not cured their friend yet, but they have what they need to cure their friend.
Okay.
And that's where we close the curtain on this.
All right.
Knowing that the next leg of this journey is the one to actually cure their friend.
And it was level 1 all the way through.
Level 2 at the end.
Right.
So,
right. Did they play as level 2 or the game ended with level up?
No, we played at level 2.
Okay.
So the way we did things was I had multiple encounters built.
Yes.
We went through essentially, I would say, probably 4 encounters total. Some of them were very minor encounters.
Any social, or are we talking all actual combat?
Nope, these were social encounters and combat encounters. So we had 4 encounters that they went through. That 4th and final encounter, when they finished that encounter, they leveled up to level 2. And this was basically one short rest and a little bit of a journey away from the final boss. So they went into the boss fight now freshly level 2 with new domain cards, a couple of new abilities, basically slightly buffed up. to go into this. And all the encounters that I built previous to that were all tier 1 encounters using the encounter builder. Not all of them were used building the encounter builder. 2 of them were made building with the actual encounter builder.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 were not big enough encounters to be built.
Okay.
Right, which I'll get to in a second. And then the final one was a tier 2. So this is now tier 2 enemies, including a tier 2 solo at this point, using the actual encounter builder.
Okay.
As far as environments go, I used 5, I think. So
environmental stat blocks.
I used the tavern.
Okay.
I used marketplace. I used Raging River.
Did you really?
Abandoned Grove, and I used Occult Ritual. Because that one just fits.
Yeah, that's the obvious one.
And I wanted to test a bunch of different environments and see how they worked in real play.
Yeah.
So I used all of those. So the encounter builder, like I said, I used it to build 2 tier 1 encounters and then the tier 2 encounter. The other ones, I didn't need the encounter builder for because they were not built encounters, right? So they were either social encounters dealing with merchants or information brokers, right? Or they were encounters that were incredibly small, like, like 1 or 2 enemies that just happen to be in an area, right? So they get spooked by, like being in an area and they have a minor fight with like a glass lizard, say, or something like that, or glass snake. So that kind of thing you don't need encounter builder for because you're just like throwing a couple things here and there to do a little bit of damage, get them off kilter just a little bit while they move along. Whereas the actual encounters I built were very straightforward. I have to say that I guess we'll start with my overall thoughts there. The encounter builder worked incredibly well.
Really?
So well.
Because I know we were both mentioned, we were kind of worried it might be a little much.
When I was looking at them, I was a little bit worried. I was like, this might be a bit much, especially when you start bringing in minions, man. Yeah. When you start bringing in minions, that's a lot of opponents when you go on. Because a standard minion block traditionally is the size of your party, right? So, if you have a minion of like, occults, that would be 4 occult members. Yeah. You throw in 2 of those, that's 8 occult members in addition
not a lot
to
of points.
All the others for not a lot of points. Exactly. So it starts to look like you got a lot going on. And you do have these are massive encounters when compared to encounters that I've built in other games.
Yeah.
A lot more moving parts on my side of things. And it looked like it was going to be a bit much. Some of these encounters I did scale back. So there's, the encounter builder, if you want it to be a little bit easier, you can, subtract a point or do a damage reduction or increase based on what you want. And I did do that on one of the encounters. So I did one counter just straight, like point for point.
Yep.
And then I wanted one of these encounters to be slightly easier. So I backed that one off. I took a point away from myself. So I limited myself by 1 encounter battle point in that one. And then the final boss, I wanted it to be a little bit tougher because they had just leveled up and they were fresh into fight. I knew by that point they were probably going to be pretty well healed and ready for this fight because they were expecting it at this point because of all the buildup. So I wanted that one to be tougher. So I made that one slightly harder. So I gave myself an extra point there to make that encounter harder. Everything lined up exactly how I would have expected it to go. Pretty flawless.
Nice.
Like the easier one was not a cakewalk, but it was slightly easier. The one that was 1-to-1 was so balanced. It felt so balanced across the board. And then the hard one at the end, even with them making some insane choices and some crazy rolls that ended up with me going into the final fight with a decent amount of fear.
Yeah.
I was able to open that fight like swinging.
Yeah.
And really do some heavy hitting. It was still not a white. Like I said, I got some people down low. When they finished that final battle, they were hurting, but they were all alive. And they did it, without me making any concessions, right? This wasn't me pulling punches. I was throwing every bit of fear that I had at them. By the end of that fight, I had spent the last couple of rounds with no fear.
Yeah.
Every fear that they were giving me, I was sending right back at them.
And that's part of the balance of Daggerheart is because you can go into these big battles and make them feel the pressure right off the jump because you're loaded with fear. And then once the fear starts to disappear, the battle starts to swing, the tides change, and the players start to feel the victory like coming up. And I thematically, I really like that. I do have a quick question.
Oh, sure.
I throw it back.
Yeah, stop me at any point.
Was this all theater of the mind? Did you use maps?
We did no maps.
Okay.
We did no maps.
All
so there's
theater of
two
the mind?
choices that we made here that we made as a group before we started. One of them was that we weren't going to use any battle maps because I was like, I have a battle map. It was discussed. So I said, I have a battle map, but we don't have to use it. And they were like, okay, well, it'll take up a lot of table space. So, we're probably not going to do that. Yeah. So no battle map. And the next one was, do you guys just want to use pen and paper, or do you want me to use some tokens?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know where your collector's edition was. It's over there in the corner. I didn't know that. So I didn't want to try and use any tokens here. I may have actually used those if they wanted to, but they were all like, let's just not use tokens. Right. So instead of using tokens, we just did pen and paper. So this is actually, I was okay with because it gives a good idea of if you were to just buy this game standard edition in a store and decide to play it with your friends right then and there, it's a really good 1-to-1 of that because you weren't going to have tokens unless you buy more stuff. So that was the two decisions that we made. So we just did everything theater of the mind, and we did not have any additional tokens. We just had the dice that we had, which I provided all the kids with dice and notebooks. I basically bought them little care packages of 2 sets of dice. So they had, hope and fear. And then, a notepad to take their notes. So I will say one thing on that note is the tokens, they would have all preferred tokens.
Really?
Yes. By the end of the game, a couple of them were all like, this works, but it would have been a lot cooler to have like hope is as a physical thing. One, to see it, and it's better to see, because I asked why, and it was like, one, it's better to see, it's easier to see it, and kind of they think it would be, like you're more likely to use it if you can see it and see it as a physical thing.
Instead of the number written down.
The turnover of hope is a lot of erasing. And rewriting and erasing.
They ever consider maybe having like a spin down die sort of situation?
So that could work too, but I don't think that's as elegant because that can easily be knocked, especially when you're moving dice around.
And this is now we're moving into like absolutely third party things or creative people things, especially, you've got 3D printer or what's the word I'm looking for? Where you cut the wood out, whatever, CNC.
Yeah, CNC.
I've seen a lot of people, especially Daggerheart subreddits, that are making the different trackers, and people always do a little spot for hope that like you could throw in like a D6 and stuff, and it like fits in nice and snug.
Yeah, if it fits in nice and snug, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
But the long and short of that is that they did say
they had
would
a physical
representation would have been helpful, and that would have been fine. I was tracking fear as a physical representation. My dice.
Were you doing little daggers?
My daggers.
Yeah,
I was using my little daggers.
Nice. Was it in a place where they could see them, or was it on your side of the screen?
I wasn't sure what I was going to do before this game. I was like, am I going to show them fear, or am I going to hide my fear and let them have to math it, right? Have them think about how much fear they're feeding me, or do I show them the fear?
Right.
I decided to show them the fear.
Okay.
And I put that fear that I was gaining front and center in front of the GM screen so that they knew at all times how much they were fueling me.
I think this is my preferred method as well.
And it did a lot. Like they were making choices based on how much fear I had because they were terrified of stacking fear onto me. And especially going into that last fight, they were panicking at that point because they were discussing whether or not to take a short rest.
Oh, because it would give you more.
Because they were all like, if we don't short rest right now, we can go in where we're at and we're not horrible. We feel okay.
Yeah.
But some of them didn't feel as confident. And then their trade-off was, well, what if he rolls high on that D4? Because that's how it works. When you short rest, you get a D4, gain that much fear. And their worry was, what if he rolls high? If he rolls high, it could be definitely bad for us.
Those are extra entire actions.
I rolled a 4.
You rolled a 4?
I rolled a 4 and got 4 fear stacked before going into that final battle.
And they're like, we should have rested.
Worst case scenario for them, but really good because they were able to heal up.
Yes.
They were able to do a lot of stuff. So that was really good for them.
The duality of
The
a short
duality of
rest.
it. But yes, I put my fear front and center, and I think that was the right move, and I think they enjoyed it because they liked being able to see that representation, and it looms, right?
Yeah,
They see what's going on there, and they see whether or not I'm spending it, and if I'm not spending it, why is he not spending it?
Yeah, what's coming up?
Why is he keeping that? What is he doing with that?
Yeah.
And they would talk about that. I would hear them at the table. Like the guy across from the table was like, he's saving that fear because he's going to do something.
Yep.
I know he's going to do something. And I'm like, well, are you going to go into the keep or not? There's a door there. It's not locked. You can open it. And he was all like, yeah, but if I open it, you have 4 fear over there. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, you just got to open the door and find out.
Before we leave combat entirely, I do have another question related. GM screen.
Yes.
You used the GM screen that came with the
I used your GM screen.
Super Edition of Daggerheart or whatever. That is not available yet, but should be. How was it? Did it come in handy at all? Was it just a screen?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So it did come in handy for a couple different things. I used it for just some quick reference for conditions. Right.
Yeah.
So I used it for conditions.
When we played D&D, that's the main thing I used.
Yeah, I used it mostly for conditions. In the beginning, I kind of used it as a rough gauge for like specific actions, moves, trying to decide difficulty levels that I thought were appropriate.
Okay.
Rather than just coming off the dome, I would look at it and be like, 15 is kind of hard, but doable. Maybe that's what it would be. Overall, I think in the future, I probably would not use that GM screen.
Really?
I would use a more custom freeform GM screen, one that I can put my information that I want that's pertinent to me and the world that I'm playing in on.
I almost left up the one we used for Strahd for you, where you could put in your own papers.
Yes.
And I was like,
So that one,
we need to test this.
that one would have been a better screen.
Really?
Yes. I think I would prefer that screen. I would have gotten way more use out of that screen because I would have been able to clean up the table in front of me because I would have had pertinent information.
Get some information off the table
and onto the screen.
Do you think that's because there's wasted real estate on the Daggerheart one?
No, I just think that it's not necessarily pertinent information that you need all the time or you need access to all the time. It's not for me, at least. Maybe it's for someone.
Absolutely.
Maybe it is for someone. But for me, nice GM screen. Next time, I will be playing with my own custom GM screen. I won't use the Daggerheart one.
Cool. Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah. Any other question?
Not yet.
No questions yet. Okay. So encounter builder, combats, overall, really love it. Everything in there worked out
no issues
so great.
With theater of the mind.
No issues with theater of the mind.
Newest player had no issue grasping on to that.
So I guess I should kind of backtrack a little bit before we move on from there. Is the first 2 hours of this were spent with character creation and learning the game. So that's kind of pertinent to that.
Okay.
Everybody that's here has never played Daggerheart. The new player has never played any TTRPG. It only took 2 hours to create all these characters and learn to play the game. And that includes things like experiences and connections and learning how weapons work and learning how roles work. 2 hours to learn a game is, well, actually less than that because it's more or less, it was like an hour of creating characters and then an hour to learn the systems. Probably less than that if I'm being completely honest. So it's probably more like an hour and a half.
There's always some chatting.
Character creation. Yeah. And then maybe a half hour of actual hardcore. These are the rules of the game. Everybody picked it up really quickly.
Good.
And really, really well. Like I said, 2 hours was more than enough time to not just make characters, but learn the game. That's 4 characters made and a game learned by 4 people, one of which who has never played a TTRPG before.
Speaking of that, did you notice a disparity between least experienced to most experienced player? Like, was there ever, I know you said everybody grasped it, but was it like, they obviously, your daughter grasped it the fastest, and then the other player maybe lagged behind a little bit, or was it pretty even across the board?
It was pretty even across the board.
Okay.
I think the only place that our new player lagged behind everybody else in is confidence in actions, which we kind of know for any TTRPG.
Yes.
So anybody coming into a game, basically knowing what you can do and when you should do it is like the biggest hurdle for most people to get over.
I know when people start D&D, it's usually can I do anything?
Yes.
Or, or ooh, is that allowed? And it's somewhere in between. until you really get a feel for what actually makes sense in the game. Especially when you look at people that have, oh, this sounds cool. Is it like a video game? And they're like, well, video game logic doesn't necessarily apply, but sometimes applies.
Yeah. And what I told him and what I told the entire table too is like, if you're not sure about an action or you're not sure how something works, just ask me if it's
Bingo.
something that you want or can do. And I will tell you. I will be straight with you. I'll either
100%.
tell you, yes, you can, no, you can't, or yes, you can with caveats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, that was the only way that he really lagged behind everybody else was confidence in actions, which slowly went away.
That's a muscle.
Over the course of a couple of hours. He started flexing that muscle, started being more independent, and started speaking about things that he wanted to do or questions that he had, and was able to come into his own and start to participate like everyone else. So even if there was a lag there, it was not for long. Yeah, it wasn't for long before that all caught up. So yeah. Overall, rules wise, everybody caught on really quickly, which shows a lot for the system because the system is easy to learn and complex enough to where you have a lot of malleability within it. But it's very easy to pick up and learn. It's not difficult. Having cards out is really good for being able to like go through and check your stuff. Makes it a little bit easier to look at your abilities. We did have a couple people forget abilities that they had. And not use abilities that, could have benefited them in a couple of roles.
Even though there are ones that are right in front of them?
Yes, even though they're like right front and center. But they're just sometimes easy to forget.
Totally.
A good one of those is Bathras, our war wizard. One of the wizard abilities is seeing a number, right? And basically having a lucky number, right? So when you roll that number, you gain hope. And he forgot that he was supposed to be looking for that number in his rolls, and thus missed out on gaining some hope, throughout the game because he most likely rolled that number before realizing that he wasn't looking for that number. So that was an ability that he missed, that I missed, that he wasn't applying to himself.
That's the learning, and that's the thing about a one shot, right? So you're going to notice that on your first, maybe second session or so, and then if you're playing a long campaign, you learn it. You move forward, you're going to look for that.
You're going to start looking for
a one shot like this. You miss it and you're like, oh man. And it feels like you really like lost out because you never get to use it.
You never got to use it. I've done that in so many games. Absolutely. And I've done that with characters that we've played forever. Yep. Like, I've done that recently in my game where it's all like, wait a second. I had advantage on Constitution saving throws that entire time. I made 3 and didn't use them.
You leveled up at one point and you didn't add in armor.
Oh yeah, didn't add in.
Your AC would have been higher the whole game.
Nope. Yeah, didn't add that in, and I was just getting hit. All the time because
how many hits would that have changed? Like,
exactly.
There's no way to know.
It happens to new players. It happens to old players.
Exactly.
So that would be the. Like I said, they lagged a little bit behind in that, and basically just knowing what they can and can't do. But once they started to get past that, everything started to really flow. On the same subject, we'll get into the kind of next thing, which is voices and choices, is what I called it, right?
Nice.
So this is voices in the mass and the choices that you get to make, because that's one of the biggest discussions, I think, on the internet, as far as like what I've been reading about people playing this game, and it's one we talked about too, which is how does it really work when you have so many people at the table and you have people that want to make a bunch of moves and you have people that don't want to make a bunch of moves.
Yeah.
Right. And you have a loud voice over a quiet voice. Right. How does that shake out? And
this is the discussion about Daggerheart since before release.
Yes. And we made a whole thing about it, which is Daggerheart harder for GMs, right? Is it more work for a GM?
Right, because it's one of those things you have to keep look out for.
Yes, you got to look out for. And I will say this, yes and no. So
thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
We are on the fence.
Yeah.
So yes and no. Yes, it is easy for a player to kind of step in and feel like they need to make the same move again, right? Or they feel like if I just keep going, maybe I can finish this. So a good example is, somebody runs up and they try and fight someone and they do a decent amount of damage. And now the person that they tried to hit is nice and bloodied and they're looking bad. And then I'm like, okay, well, your turn is over, but you roll with hope, so it's not mine going. I'm not going to spend any fear, so it's back to the players.
Yeah.
Well, who else wants to make a move? And then they're all like, well, if I do it one more time, I can probably kill them, right? Or I can probably subdue the enemy.
Yeah.
If I just go again, which is not an invalid argument.
Nope.
Especially if you did it once and you did it really well and you did so much damage and you're like, oh, if I just do it one more time, you guys, I can do this. I can finish this. And maybe you can, and maybe you can't. Because if you roll with fear and you fail, then you just wasted everybody's time, and it goes back to me, and I'm going to punish you for it. Them's the dice.
Yeah.
So there is a temptation there, and sometimes people do cave into it. Sometimes people are like, and I didn't have anybody just come out at the table and be all like, I am doing this, and none of you can stop me.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. It was more of a, hey guys, can I just please do one more thing? Because if I do this one more time, I might be able to do something.
Yeah.
And sometimes the other players at the table were all like, yes, absolutely, this makes sense. Do it again. It would make sense that you would do it again because you just did this really good thing. Follow it up and finish it, or try and finish it. And then sometimes the other players at the table were all like, what if we did this instead? What if we did this instead? And then if that doesn't work, then maybe we'll go back to you.
Interesting that like they'd break down a moment into that like tactical planning, like okay, but instead.
Yes, but instead this. And it does require a little bit more work on the GM thing, because on my side, I'm looking at everything that's happening here and I can watch, and I've got 4 players at my table, and I have 2 that are very active in the combat right now, punching back and forth. They do a tag team, one hits one, they do another thing, and then I have 2 players that are just kind of out there. So it's now upon me to do what we've already talked about, which is I look over to the player to my right and I'm like, hey, what are you doing right now?
Bingo. Yep.
And just that simple question is enough to then bring them into the circle. And they're all like, oh, I'm doing this ? And I'm like, absolutely, make a roll.
Yep.
And then they do that thing.
Yeah.
Or if that doesn't work and I'm like, what are you doing right now? And they're like, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend a fear and I'm going to go attack you.
Yep. That's the stick and the carrot are like, you have to use them in this kind of system.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, it does require a little bit more as a GM, especially if you have a player that is inexperienced or maybe just a little bit quiet. It's going to require you to jump in and do something on that and do that. And that was actually part of my reasoning behind sticking my MacGuffin to the new player. Mm-hmm. By making that player the one that was the sick one, the one that the story was revolving around, that had to be escorted and had to be saved.
There's going to be forced role play narrative tied to that player.
Narrative tied to a brand new player. Yep. I did this on purpose because I wanted that player to be a little bit more spotlighted at being the one at the table that has never done this before. And I wanted to push him a little bit more than the others at the table. And it worked. It worked great. It put him at the center point of things. They were trying to protect him a lot. And specific NPCs wanted to talk to him directly, or he was involved in certain things.
How did that, what's what I'm looking for. How did the sickness as it progressed over time, which I assume you said it was rapid, how did it affect the character?
So affected him physically in the game, not so much. Like I did not do the sickness to like where I didn't punish him.
There weren't disadvantages.
There weren't disadvantages to him. No. What I used this for was I used this as not so much a countdown, but as a rush factor.
Yeah.
So if at any time I felt them lagging or felt them not moving, I would make this character notice that the ossification of his side where he basically what I did was, so in the serpent sickness, they don't really tell you in Witherwild how it is contracted. It's just kind of left up to you to do it. And a lot of it is kind of like implied that it's environmental, that you're around it all the time. So in my version here, the cultists are using basically shards of the god's body. So ossified shards of it, and stabbing people
like
with them and breaking off the blade.
Oh, okay.
And where the blade is stuck in the person, that's where the petrification begins, and it spreads from that point.
Okay.
And I stabbed him in the side, basically in his armpit with this.
Yeah.
So he was starting to solidify near his rib cage.
And this was narrative before the game began.
This was the very first thing that I did, essentially. Like right from the jump, I got them in a tavern brawl, and basically he got jumped by a cultist and stabbed.
Okay.
So what I did was I would just remind him of the spread and make him aware, like, oh, you go to move on your left side and it's starting to get a little bit stiff. And then one of the other party members will come over and check him out. And, like, oh, it's spreading more. Like, it's gone over 2 inches in the last couple of hours. So it's moving. We need to move. We've got to go. So I didn't punish him mechanically at all, ever. I just used it as if I felt like they were lagging, I would remind them of the spreading of this sickness and how much time they are losing.
And by the end of the game, it is still spreading.
Yes.
They have not cured him.
And they have not cured him yet.
How much... I guess skip to the end spoiler wise, how much of him is ossified?
So right now it is essentially it's up to his chest a little bit and into his underarm and then down his side, like close to his lower back. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, but he's not solid yet. When he starts the next game, his lungs are going to start to be affected. He's going to start coughing up some dust, and they're going to have to boogie oogie to get this cured.
God, I'm waiting on you to start lowering, like raising up his armor, but lowering speed.
Yeah, lowering everything else. Yeah. No, I decided, like I said, not to mechanically punish him, but more or less to just kind of use it as a, as a way to just kind of move the story along. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah,
lower evasion.
Yeah, voices over choices. Like I said, it does require a little bit more work as a GM to make sure that everybody's voices are heard.
Yep.
And to make sure that, it's not just a one-man show, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
With one person doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you put it like that too, like voices heard, when sometimes it's a voice that's just not speaking up.
Yes. Yeah. That's just not speaking up.
You
But
have
it's
to
not
prod 'em.
necessarily. Yeah, you got to prod them. You got to move them along a little bit, which is, like I said, we've talked about this. And is it difficult? No. If you're an experienced GM or anything like that, it's really not that hard to just know kind of like when to step in and check in with people.
But it's something you have to be conscious of.
But it's definitely something you have to be conscious of.
Yep.
And you don't have to punish them. It's not like I'm going to attack you every time. It's just simply asking what you're doing or making that person the one that notices the thing, right? Which thematically is easy to do. If you have people walking in a certain rank and file or something like that, or sometimes they'll just tee you up. They just give you the opportunity. They hand you
There's a term in the book for this, golden opportunity.
The golden opportunity, yes. That they do that. Your players are going to do this. They're going to give you the golden opportunity to have this happen. And actually, that's funny. They gave me the golden opportunity to stab this individual.
Perfect.
I was going to try and figure out how to basically shoehorn it in and make it happen.
Work it into the story.
I didn't even have to. They opened the door for me. They're like, please stab this individual. And they just gave it to me.
Nice.
They gave it to me. So yeah, I didn't even have to work at that one. So chef's kiss.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, overall, the classes that we played, everything worked out really, really fun. They all operated as expected, which brings us to the monk. So we did a playtest in here. So in addition to all this, I had one of my characters or one of the players come forward and he's like, hey, is there a monk in Daggerheart? And I was all like, no.
Okay.
Wait.
I was wondering this.
Yes.
Okay. So he wanted to play a monk.
He wanted to play a
Void.
monk. He did not know about the Void.
Okay.
He had no idea. He just straight up said, you haven't sent us classes yet. Because I hadn't. And he was like, is there a monk? And I was all like, no. Here's the classes you can play. And I sent them all a list of classes and subclasses to choose from. And then I immediately talked to you. Mm-hmm. And I asked you, I was like, hey, what about playtesting a subclass? What do you think? Do you think that's crazy? And you were all like, absolutely not. Sounds great.
That's
YOLO.
wonderful.
And I was all like, that's all I needed to hear. So I went back, pulled from the void, and said, when I said there wasn't a monk, I lied. There's a monk.
Those listening right now or watching, if you don't know about this, yes, Daggerheart has a thing on their website called The Void, which is where they playtest classes and things like that. Check it out. It's all like free. Even in like demi playing, you can pull this stuff up there if you play on Nexus and stuff. So yeah, it's super rad, and I'm glad they're doing it. And they keep releasing stuff.
They keep releasing stuff. Yeah, as of right now, they have the Brawler. They have the
Got the witch.
The witch class. They
Warlock.
have a warlock, and they have an assassin build. So those are the 4 that are up there.
They're putting him up at a quick pace too, and I like it.
Super good. But yeah, I sent him over that, and I was like, hey, I kind of lied. There is a monk. Not a lie, because it's not out yet. And I told him, I was like, okay, here's the deal. You are an experienced player, so you have played in games before. So I will let you play this test class. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if this test class is broken yet, because we've never play tested it. I haven't read about anybody play testing it yet. I haven't watched any videos about anybody play testing it yet. So I was like, I don't know anything about this other than what I've read about it. So I do not know if this is broken. And when I say broken, I mean either direction. Either this is going to be broken and horrible, like you might be very underpowered. You might feel very, very weak. It might be overpowered. You might be brutal in this game to enemies. It could be just even Stevens. And it just could be, you know, a regular class. It could be a lot of fun, or it could just be really boring. I don't know. But if you're okay with not knowing what this is going to play like and willing to accept that there might be some stuff we might have to adjudicate, or it might just not be great, then fine, you'll play the monk, which is not really a monk. They're calling it a martial artist. And he said, yeah, he was all like, cool. Can I be a clank monk? And I was like, absolutely.
Of course.
And then he was all like, can one of my hands not be a hand? And can it be a piston fist? And I was all like, this sounds great. I love all of this. I can't wait till you tell me that you swat a fly on your face and accidentally piston fist yourself in the forehead.
Did he open any doors?
So no, he didn't open any doors with it. Yeah. But yes, so long story short, he played a martial artist brawler. So in my limited time with this playtest, and this is what I'm going to tell you, what I see with the monk is a little bit powerful.
Really?
Little bit powerful. Okay. Maybe overpowered.
Okay.
So
you did have 3 like from the book classes.
Yes, we had 3 from the book classes.
Hey,
and with the monk, with backup. So the monk, he was able to build something with a decent evasion, and he hits like a Mack truck. They hit really hard. They hit very brutally. They can do a lot of damage. So having the backup of a seraph, being able to heal him and keep him up, and buff, and with the war wizard being able to turn around and make enemies vulnerable to attacks using spells. Yeah. So you add that vulnerability in, and then you have the monk running in and just punching
the martial artist.
The martial artist, running in and punching things, and the seraph being able to heal him in times of need. The monk ended up being a frontliner in this party. So, like, basically up there just beating the crap out of stuff that I had. Yeah. The biggest thing that the monks have is their stances. And the defensive stance was absolutely horrible for me.
Really?
Yes, the defensive stance is so powerful. Basically, you have focus points that you get as a monk, and then you can use those focus points to drop into stances, and you stay in those stances during the entire scene, or if you take severe damage. If you drop out of stance, you can use a focus to go back into stance. Defensive stance is a stance that allows you to, when you are being attacked by an adversary, they have disadvantage against you to hit you.
That's brutal for a GM because you're rolling a d20.
Unless you spend a stress, unless you stress your adversary. So you can ignore the disadvantage by adding stress to your adversaries. This was incredibly brutal to me. Yes. Because I was now juggling stress from abilities, because there's a lot of stress abilities on adversaries, especially the ones that I was running. So my cultists that were basically skinned jagged knives in tier 1, and then there were actual cultists in tier 2. Dryads and stuff like that I was running, some chaos elementals. A lot of these things have stress abilities. And I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to balance this stress, because it starts to deal damage to your adversaries, just like it does with your opponents. And basically him punishing me for attacking him constantly. So he was in a front line just beating me. And I have to retaliate. But now I'm rolling at a disadvantage. every single time. And if I
his
drop him
evasion's
out
good,
of
right?
stance, yes, his evasion's pretty decent. If I drop him out of stance, then he's going to use focus to go back into
Right
stance.
into it, yeah.
Right back into stance. And I just have to stress build. So he was stressing my adversaries, and he realized this, and he was all like, oh yeah, if I just keep stressing, eventually you're going to be able to stop doing certain abilities.
Yes.
Because you're using stress to do those. And if you do, it's going to hurt you. And there were instances where I had, enemies that were basically being forced to like take stress rolls, or it only happened like once where I was actually forced to. But basically what happened was it locked me out of being able to use specific abilities that are based on stress. And that happened multiple times where I was getting so stressed that I could not use certain abilities on them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because once you're out, you can't.
Once you're out, you're out.
You can't force yourself to take health. You know, you're gonna.
So
you just can't use the ability.
It was locking me out of abilities. Or I was having to choose not to stress and just rolling at disadvantage,
which is rough with the D20,
which is
man.
Rough, which is very, very rough.
See, it's different if a player has disadvantage. You roll that extra D6. You subtract the D6 from your 2D12.
Yeah.
Because I got an 18 and that's a 17. Like, it's pretty good. You roll a D20.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I got a natural 20 and a 7.
Yeah. So that coupled with the amount of damage output that the brawler martial artist has is really powerful. Like, he was like doing some serious amounts of damage. Do
you regret letting him play this?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't regret it at all. It led to some amazing, like some of the damage output that he did was really, really good, and ended up to have some really amazing scenes where where he just basically insta killed a support that was next to one of my leaders, and was just able to one shot, basically run up and one punch man this guy across the thing against a wall, and he was just out of the game completely.
Heck yeah.
And just cool stuff like that, like really fun moments where he was able to just really, really do stuff. So I liked it, and it was overpowered. Yes. I think a little bit overtuned. I think they need to walk the monk back just a little bit. In my experience, I'm going to. Yeah, I think that they can probably walk the monk back a little bit.
You should have him do it as well. Send it over to him.
Overall, it wasn't so broken that it ruined the game. It did not ruin my encounters. He was able to do more damage than I was expecting, and was able to push me to have to make different moves because of stress. He was stress locking me. But
great segue.
It worked
into your encounters. You mentioned how the encounters felt super balanced, perfectly balanced in some cases. But you had an overtuned character.
I had an overtuned character. So that's the real question is that did it just feel overtuned, right? Or was he really overtuned? So it's, it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Because when I say the balance came out really well, it ended up being really, really well. Now, this was also, you have to take into consideration too, that this wasn't a one-man show. So it wasn't just him all the time.
Absolutely.
So his moves, while powerful, were not every single move that happened in this game.
You mentioned at the end, and the last fight was a really tough fight, and you had a couple players that were down at 1 health, super low, right? Where was he?
Oh, he was at 1.
He was one of the ones at 1.
He was at 1. Okay. And at another point, he came down to 2 occasions.
Okay.
Yeah. On 2 different occasions, he came down to 1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you were targeting him more often than the other players?
No, I wasn't. He just gave me some really good opportunities to target other people. One of them was an instance where one of my solos has an area of effect attack. And he was in combat with this solo one-on-one, and instead of staying in that combat, he was running back to get to the Seraph to basically try and get a heal, and just ran back to the group, and now the entire group was all together, and they were all like, why are you running back here? The last time that we grouped together, he hit us with an AoE. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah,
I nailed the entire group with Hellfire. And they were all like, why did you come back here?
So good.
Go away.
Get out of here. We don't want you here.
But not necessarily. It was kind of even across.
Okay.
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
One interesting moment that happened. So I gave, like I said, I gave everyone that came here a notebook. I gave them 2 sets of dice.
Yeah.
And a dice bag that they could take home so they could have their dice with them and everything like that.
Presents.
Made them presents. And they got to choose, which color was their hope, which color was their fear. So these are like bog standard, like Chess X.
Yes.
Like, $14 dice that you buy. The person who's never played before had the most insane roll in the final combat against the final boss, like the head boss. Didn't kill
So thematic.
didn't kill them outright, but did so much damage because they rolled on their dice, rolled a critical to hit, right? So then they had max damage.
Yep.
Right.
Max damage plus
they roll their damage dice.
Yep.
They rolled max damage on their damage dice.
Was it a singular die or multiple die?
Multiple dice.
Nice.
Multiple
so just
dice.
double damage.
Max damage.
Yeah.
Right?
So severe, I assume, right?
With hope.
Nice.
Massive damage.
Well,
massive damage. Okay. Well, yeah, with crit. So they got to go again.
Relieve a stress, get a hope.
Relieve a stress, get a hope.
Yep.
Rolls a crit again.
Stop.
So
they went twice in a row.
Again, yes.
Okay.
Because everybody at the table was so hyped. They're like, you have to go again. Right. That was so amazing. Hit something else.
Yeah.
And they went against another enemy that was right in close range. Rolled again on a crit. Rolled again on max damage on the dice. Yes,
that's
everybody at the table lost their mind.
Oh, that's so good.
And we're all like, somebody needs to test those dice. These were all like, brand new dice out of the bag. He didn't roll a crit, I think, before that. This was his first crit the entire game and managed to just roll max.
The dice tell the story.
It was insane. Players lost their minds.
Yeah, I bet.
He did massive amounts of damage to my final boss, like absolute, like horrible damage to my final boss, and a little bit of extra damage to the adept that was protecting the final boss, because I had a situation where keeping my adept alive was keeping my boss alive. So the boss had to take damage from the adept to keep the adept alive so that she could reduce the damage to herself.
Yeah.
He was basically providing a shield to her. So yeah, he ended up doing so much damage in this like roll after roll.
Yeah.
It was thematic. It was great. Everybody loved it. So yeah, it was really funny.
I'm glad
so many dice rolls.
I'm glad, the newest player got to have that moment.
Yeah, he got to have this completely epic moment, completely natural.
Yeah.
Like, it's just insane to see.
That's how you hook these people forever.
Yeah, like how you hook these people forever. Because that high of rolling a crit and then rolling max damage and then rolling a crit and then rolling max damage. What are the odds of that? Like, it's insanity. It was crazy, and it was great. I wouldn't take it back. It was so awesome. I loved it. So that was a lot of fun.
Rad.
So yeah, that was my game of Daggerheart. Overall, the players, I asked them at the end, I was like, so what did everybody think of it? Did everybody have fun? And they all absolutely loved it.
Everybody.
We did a check-in at lunch break, which was our basically middle mark.
Mm-hmm.
We went and got some food. And when we sat down at the table and were eating, the game was all everybody was talking about. They were all talking about what they were going to do. I left them on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because
this
I was
is
all
great
like,
for you as the GM too, because you're like,
oh yeah, I was just sitting over there watching and listening.
Telling me what you're going to do.
They're telling me all this stuff about what they're going to do or what they want to do. They have a magic item that they still have no idea what this thing does. They have a mysterious liquid in a bottle.
And you can't say it because they'll listen to the episode.
Yes, I'm not going to say what it is.
Tell me off mic.
They kept deciding on how they were going to figure out what it was and different methods that they could use. They even just floated the idea of tossing the bottle at somebody to see what would happen.
Hey,
who knows? I started to make them.
Works.
They have their suspicions because every couple of minutes, I would ask if somebody had actually drank it yet.
Nice.
And nobody's drank it yet.
Not yet.
Who knows if it's a bad thing or a good thing?
We would have drank it immediately.
Who knows? Who knows? I did tell them it smells a little bit pungent, like spicy. Kind of a spicy smell.
It's like a chai
to
tea.
It. Yeah. And it's got like a nice
latte.
orange glittery color to it. Yeah, so they have no idea what that does. And if they're
Pumpkin
listening,
spice.
you'll have to drink it and find out. Or whatever, you can do whatever you want
You
with
throw
it.
it at a guy, but he's just gonna drink it.
Yeah.
What if it's really good? Huh?
But yeah, in their check-in, they were all
Nice.
having a really good time at the end of the game. They all enjoyed it.
Did any of them give
they all
you
had a
like
really good
individual
time.
input that you would
So
like to mention?
not yet. So we wrapped this up a little bit behind the screen for everyone here. I just finished this game.
At the beginning of this episode when I mentioned it was hot and fresh, I meant
Hot
it.
and fresh. I am coming off of the 11-hour game right into this recording to talk about it right here. So this is the last bit of my voice for this evening. Tomorrow I'll wake up and I will not be able to talk.
No, he's lying. Actually, what's going to happen is we're going to record next week's
we're gonna
episode,
record another episode.
Immediately after
Yeah.
this episode ends. At the end of that, we'll probably be whispering through the outro.
Yes, yeah. I haven't gotten individual takes on it yet, but overall, it seems to be pretty positive. Everybody seemed to have a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun running it.
Yeah.
It was very fun to run. And I don't think we had many points of contention. There may have been a couple places where I didn't have an exact ruling available right then and there, but that's okay because you just adjudicate it and you make it up as you go, and it all works out in the end.
It didn't stop the game.
It didn't stop
Everyone
the
had
game. I
fun?
can't even remember which ones they were.
Exactly.
Because it was immediate and we just made a ruling and just kind of went with it.
Yep.
That is one thing that I will bring up. Before we end this, one last final thought to leave on. Something happened in this game that I feel doesn't happen in other games nearly as much because of the initiative system.
And this is a positive?
This is a positive.
Good.
So I had an entire encounter built around fighting a dryad with 2 bears and some giant mosquitoes. The bears got the ambush. I had grappled one character with a bear. I had another character completely trapped in a cage of thorns. They set it up to basically accidentally steal something precious from this dryad. So they were angry. They were very, very mad. It was going very bad. It was going to be a straight up combat. And in D&D, this would have been a combat. Straight up combat, fighting until the death, until somebody dies. But I had a character who decided that he wanted to not fight.
Yeah.
And instead wanted to try to do something else, like talk or, try and do something. And did a tag team move with another character for essentially diplomacy.
Diplomacy tag team.
To try and talk their way out of this. Rolled a crit.
Beautiful.
Rolled a crit.
Chef kiss.
And was able to turn a combat from we were making moves and somebody's trying to break out of the cage and hurting himself on thorns and taking damage. I got a bear attacking somebody and shaking them by the arm to a sudden de-escalation and a discussion that wasn't an instant, oh, we're friends now.
Yeah.
But led to a social encounter that ended in both parties walking away and coming to a sort of common ground agreement to where they're not necessarily going to help each other, but we're also not going to hinder each other as parties. And I feel in all the games that I've ever run or played with initiative-based systems, that it's more about just who kills who first.
Yeah.
And it feels like this system was easier for somebody to look at their party members that are physically attacking each other and doing damage and fighting and deciding on my turn, I'm not going to fight.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight. Hey, what if we did this together? What if we did something like this? And
I've got the hope.
And
Let's
work together and try to do something.
Yeah.
And I was all like, you know what? I love this. Spend that hope.
Please do.
And let's make some rolls.
Did you see a lot of tag team roles in the game?
Yes. Yeah. We did see some cool tag team roles. A lot of them got used up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Last question about that combat there. Well, what's actually more of a thing I noticed. Your game was 11 hours and you basically skipped a combat?
Yes, we skipped a combat.
That's insane.
Yeah, we skipped a whole combat, and that combat.
You thought this was going to be an 8-hour game?
Really just got started. Yeah, that combat could have been a hour-long combat, and we skipped that one. And it was so that one was supposed to be a little bit easier. I built with the encounter, and I backed that one off just a little bit. Yeah, because that was supposed to be a little bit quicker. And it was going to be quicker, but it was way quicker.
Yeah.
Way quicker on that one because, we skipped it.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I said, that one was interesting because, like I said, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel in a lot of other systems with initiative base, it feels more like you're just fighting to fight. And the fight is the end goal.
And you can definitely end combats early by doing, having conversations.
Absolutely.
But let's say we were playing, WotC's game and you're like, oh, I really want to, can I? And I'm like, yeah, it's actually, Richard's turn right now. You're later in initiative. This is something you'd probably do on your turn if you spend your action.
Yeah.
Like if you want to use your action to try to, pull off diplomacy. I'll let you. I'll try. I'll let you do this, for sure. And then they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to spend my action." Yeah, and then I have to wait another 35 minutes before it gets back to me.
Before it gets back over to you. Yeah, it's just not conducive in the same way.
Not to say it doesn't happen.
This. Yeah, no, not to say it doesn't happen, and it can totally happen in other games.
Yes,
I just feel like this system opens up the opportunity for environmental interaction and social interaction. It opens it up easier.
Well, in the encounter builder, it gives you as much, weight towards social encounters as actual combats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I thought that was very interesting, and I really liked that. And I liked being able to do something a little bit unorthodox and have it work out really well, and have this. And it actually, it almost, this started a little bit of inter-party play because the one party member that was locked in a cage did not want to let it go. He was mad.
Yeah,
he was big mad about being locked in a cage.
Was it the martial artist?
And yes, it was.
Oh yeah, okay.
And being talked down to because his character was a little bit of a hothead.
Yeah.
And the dryad picked up on that and was being very sassy at him.
Nice.
And talking down to him, and he did not like that. So there was a lot of holding back of another party member, like, don't you mess this up. We are doing really good right now. And he was all like, no, he's being mean to me. He's hurting my feelings and I am upset about it.
I'm not okay with this.
Yeah, so it did involve a lot of one party member holding back another party member.
I like that it's a hot-headed clank.
A hot-headed clank of all things. Yeah, from ruining a good outcome or possibly turning the non-combat back into combat again. But they were able to hold him back, and we were able to move on from there.
Rad.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I'm glad this went well for you.
Overall, very fun time was had by all. Was it a perfect game start to finish? Ruleless, flawless rulings, every bit, no abilities missed, everything to the T. Absolutely not.
Sounds like a perfect game.
It was
to
a
me,
flawed, fun experience.
Real game.
For everyone. Laughs were had, excitements. Anger, sadness,
full emotional spectrum.
Yeah, full emotional spectrum.
In one shot.
In a one shot that only took 11 hours.
Could have been more. Luckily, we finished early.
Yeah. Overall, very positive. As my final note on the game. Do you have any final questions about the game or anything that I didn't talk about?
No, really. I'm just I'm just hyped that you not only did this, but you were able to get through it in a day. I was wondering when I was checking in. I was like, they're still going.
He knows me. They're gonna do another game, aren't they? No, I was gonna get to a point.
So I'm just glad everybody had a good time, even the newer players, and it just This is a great sign for the system. And I'm glad, people are having trouble finding this game. It's flying off shelves. They're selling it without the box at this point, just to get the game to people as fast as possible. Yeah. And that's so sick.
I can see why people are enjoying it. It is a very good system, and all my players, the question was immediately asked, when are we playing again?
There we go. Yeah.
Which is great.
And you got to say, my schedule.
Have your people call my people.
Maybe the same time next year. Yeah, especially with 11-hour games, man. But
they can't all be 11-hour games.
That was awesome. If you guys have any questions for Richard regarding this one shot or anything like that, make sure you leave those in the comments. Yeah. But for now, everybody, if you enjoyed the video, if you're on those podcatchers, 5 stars really appreciated. If you're on YouTube, a like and subscribe is also super nice of you. Positive affirmations help keep those lanterns lit. As dull as the flame may be, it shall be brighter soon, I hope. And you can help with that. But for now, I've been Tyler.
And I've been Richard.
And we've been True Strike. See ya!
Bye.
Hey, adventurers. Thanks again for joining us today. Please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on Threads, Blue Sky, or Instagram. New episodes release every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike.